Hi folks, Brian Pate from the Pate Realty Group at Keller Williams Realty in Wake Forest, North Carolina. It's almost Friday night and it's time for football. Yeah, it's been a while since I've worn one of these, needless to say. So let's talk about our games this Friday night in the NAC conference. We're going to see some action that we haven't seen in a while because we got some interesting matchups. First of all, let's start over with Roseville and Clayton. Clayton last week, for the first time since 1985, beat Garner High School, and they blew them out 35-14. So we think Clayton's got quite the football team this year. Also, Rolesville last week was beaten by Cleveland. Now, Rolesville's been a little slow out of the gate the last couple of years, so we're not going to hold that against them. Still think it should be a competitive game. So Roseville travels to Clayton this Friday night at 7 p.m. Although I think the Rams are going to stand up and put up a good fight, I think in the end that Clayton's probably going to take this one. So we're picking Clayton to beat Roseville on Friday night at 7 p.m. So the next game we're going to talk about, folks, is when Brook travels to Wakefield. Friday night, 7 p.m. kickoff at Wolverine Stadium over in North Raleigh. Last week, the Wolverines took a tough one on the chin, losing to their old Cap 8 rival, Leesville Road. But the Wolverines have a good ball club put together, and they're ready to get on the field again and redeem themselves. Now, their competition this week comes from the Millbrook Wildcats out of North Raleigh. Millbrook last week played at Wake Forest High School in Trentini Stadium, and they took the defending champs to the third quarter before they began to fade at the end of the game, when Wake Forest eventually won that battle. So this week we expect to see a pretty good football game between Millbrook and Wakefield over in North Raleigh. I'm going to pick Millbrook on this one. I think they just got too much for the Wolverines. So we'll see how that comes out. Next up on our list, folks, is going to be a great football game that a lot of people have been waiting a long time to see. The Wake Forest Cougars, the defending 4AA state champs, make a 90-minute trip down south into the Sandhills to play Richmond County. Now, you want to talk about some good football. This is a great atmosphere. There's probably going to be 4,000 or 5,000 people at this game. It'll be like Texas high school football. And these are two really good football teams. Now, a lot of folks are a little bit down on Wake Forest this year, thinking that they're not as good as they were. But based on what I saw in last week's game, this football team may actually be better than the one that won the state championship last year. So I'm picking the Cougars this week. Good luck, Cougars, and bring one home to Wake Forest. So our last game this week that we're talking about are my favorite team, the Heritage Huskies, as they travel to Middle Creek. Now, Middle Creek's historically had very good football teams, and a lot of folks were talking about them being down a little bit this year. But last week, they took Rocky Mount High School, who had won 2 state championships only a couple of years ago, and pretty much controlled the game the entire time. They played a good football team and won that game. Heritage was at home last week and played a very outmatched Panther Creek team. I'm not going to say Panther Creek was bad because I don't believe that, but they did not play well at all. And the Huskies took it to them. It was 43-0 at the end of the first half, and that's how the game ended. So look for Ricky Person to continue his tear on the field. Last week, he gained over 180 yards and had 4 touchdowns. And folks, by the way, that was in the first half. This dude can run the football. Heritage has got a gunslinger at quarterback and Gunnar Holmberg. The defensive line is solid with Joe Kane, and the linebacking core led by Drake Thomas. This is a good football team, folks. Heritage may be the real deal. We're going to find out on Friday night when they travel down to Middle Creek and play the Mustangs. This is an easy one for me. I'm picking the Huskies. Go Dogs, new era. Let's do it. Have a great weekend, folks, and check in next week to see how we did.